Happy Tuesday, you sweet bastards. This is the Super Soaker. Thank you for being here. I see a lot of you over on the side leaving comments. That's what we want you to do. That's why we live stream. We could record this at any time and post it at any time, but if we do that, we cannot interact with you in the comments, which is why we choose to do this on the live stream. So get in there, comment. The other thing I'd like to say is share the link. Get out there and share it on social media. It's never been this crazy out there with the algorithms thwarting. Thwarting's a word's not used a lot, Skin.
I haven't used it.
Our efforts.
I haven't used it this morning. I usually wait till after lunchtime to use thwart.
The algorithms suck right now, man. It's really tough out there. So hit the like button, comment, subscribe, share, fluff, all those magical things. How are you doing this morning, man?
Man, I'm doing good, really good. I'm in good spirits. I'm excited about tonight, but I'm really bummed my Cowboys lost. Their playoff chances took a hit last night. I spent a lot of time looking at schedules this morning to see what 9-8 could get you.
Yeah.
If they run the table, they're going to need some help, but that will include a win against Washington in the final week of the season. So the dream is still alive. It's about less than 1%, but they do need to run the table.
Yeah, I know. I think it was somewhere between 2 and 4% going into that game last night.
Yeah.
Their chance of making it to the playoffs. And, that's important because on draft day, you really want to be able to protect the winning culture that they've worked so hard to build this year.
Yeah.
And, and it doesn't matter where you draft because, sometimes the best players get drafted later, or are undrafted. I mean, all you got to do is look at the GOAT, your guy, Tom Brady. Not even, not a high draft pick. So that means that it doesn't matter where you draft.
The only top 10 pick on the Cowboys roster is Zeke.
That's what happens when you have 12 wins every year.
What about that moment last night where Rico was just too tired and then he got hurt, so he had to come out? Zeke in. Oh, it was so funny.
This sucks so bad. It just sucks. And I wasn't heartbroken by the Bengals loss. I was rooting for a win. I mean, because after they fucked Team Tank, man, they ruined it with wins against the Commanders and Giants. So their draft is fucked anyways. So I'm like, all right, well, let's win out. Let's have some fun. And you could tell that that's what the players were trying to do. That's what Micah Parsons had in mind. That's what he thought was possible. We'll get into why it didn't happen. But as of now, the Cowboys have the 12th pick. I would love to see them lose every game and maybe get down to like the 7th or 8th pick. That would be really cool. But at this point in the season, teams are going to be tanking their balls off, so it's going to be hard to move up too far. Yeah. But let's go into the weird way in that this team – actually, you know what's a bigger story than losing this game is losing DeMarvion Overshown. Ooh, it was Mozzie Smith shedding a blocker, shedding a guy who's trying to block him. This guy falls and rolls up DeMarvion Overshown's knee, and it looks bad. And seeing the reaction from some of his teammates today, it sounds like. I mean, to me, it sounds like the type of injury that we won't see him till 2026.
They said, I saw, if I got the phrasing right, several severed ligaments, and far worse than the ACL injury he had last training camp. So, man, that sucks. That's the thing about football is those roll-up injuries are always there, especially down in that area. Those are giant men rolling up on your leg, and that really did suck. And I read about, Micah being in the locker room crying, talking about it. And it's obviously magnified by the fact that he worked so hard to get back, was having an incredible year. And that's one of their draft picks that did work out. He was an electric player. And now that is a tough, tough blow for everyone involved.
Yeah, man, he was everywhere on the field. He was effective in every single way defensively, just so fast, just this hybrid, linebacker safety combo that can, like a defensive end, like he could do every single thing on the field and was everywhere all at once. And Yeah, that's a devastating injury. And now, because you were looking at it, okay, with Micah and you got Overshown, okay, that's exciting. You start thinking about what this defense can be, and you start looking at next year in the future, and now he's just not a part of it, and he can't be a part of it this next season. And I think he'll probably miss the whole thing. And I thought I saw him comment on a post this morning, and it
Overshown?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't even CC'd on it. The post was from an account called Attack on Cowboys on Twitter. It only has 4,000 followers, and DeMarvion Overshown was not CC'd on this. But the guy, Attack on Cowboys, assuming it's a guy, could be a girl, said, I woke up, and the first thing I thought about was hoping DeMarvion Overshown doesn't become one of the greatest, quote-unquote, what-if stories of all time. And DeMarvion Overshown commented and said, guarantee I won't.
Good for him, man. He certainly seems to have a great kind of enthusiastic energy. And then obviously anytime something devastating happens to you, no matter what it is, that's the kind of attitude that you have to overcome it. The woe is me stuff will give you no chance. And this was the opposite knee, correct, of the ACL.
I don't know.
I thought I read that. But yeah, he's got a long way back. And that is going to be really, really hard. But in a season that has had one kick to the nuts after another, that feels like the biggest nut kick of the year by a sizable amount.
Yeah, I'm seeing the comments roll in here too, and it all does come back to Rowdy in so many ways. Why couldn't it have been Rowdy?
What if Rowdy had been rolled up on last night?
Yeah, I mean, Jerry would have been devastated. By the way, let's talk about Jerry, and let's talk about the way the Cowboys lost this game. New and inventive ways to break Cowboys fans' hearts. I mean, it would have been fun if the Cowboys had won a bunch of games. They probably, even if they had won out, they probably still wouldn't have made it to the playoffs, but it would have been fun, and it would have been very Cowboys to have the 16th pick and a wasted season, whatever. The way they lost this game is they lost this game by blocking a punt and then having a special teams player unnecessarily try to catch the punt as it trickled by him, and that made it a live ball again. Bengals got the ball. Bengals scored a touchdown. Bengals won the game, and you saw the devastation. Micah Parsons, you saw guys incredibly upset. I specifically think this is a fascinating time to just check in on Jerry Jones.
Okay.
And after the game, in the media scrum, Jerry Jones said, we all would say, well, why block the kick? Just take the kick and get in field goal range and kick it. After blocking the punt, we touched the ball. That all should be figured in before you decide to block the punt.
Man, that's the worst commentary I've ever heard about an extraordinary special teams play. Now, maybe he's trying to say, why risk a penalty of running into the punter? Maybe he means that, but that's not what he articulated. And this is one of the things that I always say about why football is extraordinary to me. So they activated that dude for this week, right? I don't believe he had been active in previous weeks, and I can't even pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try. There's a chance that in team meetings this week, they went over that. There's so many little nuances to that stuff. Like, think about this. One of the biggest plays of the game, the Cowboys got a sack / grounding penalty that was nullified because one guy didn't run off the field in time. That's just the nature of football. There's 11 dudes. They're all supposed to know everything that's going on. They're all supposed to be dialed in on the exact approach on every single play to have success in this thing. So if you are going to, and I don't know, I wouldn't know that if they necessarily, I'd have to have someone break it down for me that they went all out to block the punt, or if the guy just straight up missed his assignment. It was wide open for that dude.
No, they didn't call a block.
Okay.
Call a block. It was not a block.
It was wide open for that guy, and he made the right play. They didn't have the conversation. Like, are they going to gather all 11 guys before every single special teams play and go, here are the things that you have to remember. So there's a chance that dude hadn't heard that rule all year long. Maybe he heard it weeks ago in a meeting. I don't know how often they go over it, but it's pretty obvious that you get the F away from the ball. And everyone was, if you've watched football for a long time, and everyone was bringing up Leon Lett. And if you go back and watch the Leon Lett play, the thing that always stands out to me is players doing this before Leon Lett comes sliding in. He's not even paying attention to the guys around him. It also been is like that play a few weeks ago, was it a week or two ago, where Wanye ran in the touchdown on the onside kick. You fall on the ball, the game's over. He ran in the touchdown in that moment, and all those things are happening. That guy probably had delusions of grandeur. I'm about to go run this back and win the game, when all you got to do is get out of the way. You're on the other side of the timeout, 3 straight plays, and they use their timeout. You kick a field goal, right? But that is the extraordinary nature of the NFL. The highs are so high and the lows are so low that on an incredible play like that, you can have your heart ripped out and give the game right back to the Bengals just like that.
So the guy in charge of the whole organization doesn't understand what happened there. The guy in charge of it all, the guy with his hands on the steering wheel, the decider, thinks that his coaching staff made the mistake by calling for the block. They didn't call for a block. A guy broke through and blocked the punt. They didn't call for a block. That happens. That's something that happens. I think it's incredibly disturbing that Jerry Jones doesn't know that. Dude, I feel bad for the guy. Okay, you don't want to say his name. I'm going to try. Amani Aruwaverai.
I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly it.
I felt so bad for him. I mean, you saw the disappointment with Micah Parsons and how crushed he was. I mean, they really wanted to run the table with Cooper Rush, and they really wanted to do that. And I saw him, the guy who, Amani, the guy who made the mistake, and he's got the towel over his head. He's the hard walk back to the locker room. His whole team is going, "You idiot." And I felt bad for him.
Same.
And I posted that on Twitter, and, I saw a lot of people going, F that, he's a pro. He's supposed to know, he gets paid all this money, da-da-da-da-da. I mean, he just let down all of his brothers in that locker room. He's truly devastated, and I'm sorry. I'm not sitting there. I saw people say, "Oh, he should be cut before he gets to the locker room." It was a mistake. It sucked. It cost them the game. It's one of the things that cost them the game. But I don't have like ill will towards the guy in my heart. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him too. I mean, again, he was just activated. It would be different if he was on the field all the time and always involved in stuff. And I get it, man. It's football's different than all the other sports because of the nature of every game being an event and so much investment, and especially down here where football is so massive. People, but also like a lot of what you see on social media is fueled by alcohol. Now, there's some people that are just a-holes, right? But I think a lot of times, you say that stuff in the heat of the moment, and then you wake up the next morning, you're like, I don't really hate that guy. I don't feel ill will towards that guy. He didn't do it on purpose. It was a crazy play, and he made a mistake in that moment. And it probably, maybe it's a little more intense if the Cowboys are, have 8 wins, and there is really, there are 62% chance of being a wild card, but they're not. That's not going to end the season. I mean, I do feel bad for the guy, but that is, again, I've said it a jillion times. That's why teams that consistently win at a high level are just so mind-blowing to me, and why so many people do lean in on the idea of culture over X's and O's. And that having that culture and having that buy-in, and everyone is dialed in and understands their role and doesn't commit penalties and all that stuff. I mean, I agree with the idea. He's proven it since he's been here. Teams do not quit on Mike McCarthy. But, man, there are some boneheaded moments that cost you seasons, and that feels like it's been a staple of his tenure here.
So, Ice Cold Honky, you did not miss Jimmy Butler talk. We will get to it momentarily. Keep the comments coming. Go share this link with your friends. Let's get more people to the party. We're going to continue to talk about this Cowboys loss before we get into the Mavs stuff. So many different places to go. Since you're mentioning McCarthy, Troy Aikman said in the pregame, it was a great Brad Sham interview with Troy Aikman in the pregame show on The Fan. And Troy Aikman said he expects McCarthy to be back next year. Not, he's endorsed him. He's said those things. He supported McCarthy. He's done that for a long time. He's a big fan. But he said he expects him to be back next year. I don't know about that. I feel somewhat conflicted about it because I do like the culture that he's created. I like the regular season team that they are. I like the way they take care of business. Hell, how can you not like all those 12-win seasons? Mm-hmm. But I don't like him as a play caller. I don't think the offense is innovative. And I think his nature would be to run off anybody who was doing a great job calling plays because he would be insecure about losing his gig, right? So he wants that control. And he's the head coach. He's an offensive guy. But I just don't like his play calling. And so I don't know. At this point, I do think the Joneses, I think they're super intrigued by Belichick being available. I think the Witten thing is real. I think Witten could be in play. Hell, it could be a combo platter where Witten and Belichick work together, where Witten runs the offense and Belichick grooms him to take over. Maybe, that could be a possibility. I don't think Dion is real. I don't know about Vrabel. I don't, there's nothing really out there that's super intriguing. So do you think it's at all possible that McCarthy is back?
Well, I think the really interesting thing about what Troy said on that is Troy has new information, because Troy said on Monday Night Football when Houston played Dallas, I believe his exact quote was, "It's hard to imagine any scenario in which Mike McCarthy is back next year." He said that on national TV like 3 weeks ago. So for him to now come out and say, "I think he's going to be back," means someone's told him something. You don't do a complete 180 like that when you're on the record unless you have information. So that also makes me think he talks to the Joneses, and maybe the Joneses wanted him to go out there and light that juice. I don't know. We don't know. But there's something that happened with Troy Aikman to where he said the complete opposite of what he said 3 weeks ago. So I think those situations are always really interesting when it's a guy that's super plugged in. The other thing is the things that McCarthy is, at least in my beliefs, and I know there's a lot of people that think this way, the things that he's bad at, it would be completely up to Dak Prescott to overcome that, just like Aaron Rodgers did. Aaron Rodgers overcame all of that because he was great. He was the one managing those games. He was the one handling all that. It wasn't McCarthy. It was Aaron Rodgers. And so that's gonna be up to Dak to do it. And even like that critical moment in a playoff game where they didn't get a playoff, I mean, honestly, Dak can control that scenario. And he probably, hopefully, learned a lot from that scenario. But your quarterback can control that and override. I mean, we saw Romo do that with Garrett all the time, right? So that's the conundrum if you do bring McCarthy back. I thought in the last couple weeks, their offense has looked better. Not like functioning. I'm talking about there's little wrinkles and things that we didn't see earlier in the year that were effective.
Like a good running game.
Yeah. And hey, man, I mean, we've talked all year about the problems that the offensive line injuries have caused. That's crazy that they played that second half without Cooper Beebe too.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And Guyton was active and did not play.
Is that right? I didn't know he didn't even get in the game. So one thing I think I definitely feel is that whatever the Cowboys do with their head coaching situation, I'm not going to be happy with it, because that's not the way that they think. To me, is not going to be aligned with, things that are winning currently in football. I will say that I would be intrigued by Jason Witten simply because it's complete unknown. Other than we know who the guy is and we know his character and we know that he was a great teammate and all that kind of stuff. And maybe it can have some kind of a Dan Campbell effect. Mm-hmm. My perception is that from the outside is that Dan Campbell and Jason Witten have always had wildly different personalities. And, a big part of that is responding to a certain type of personality, who knows, but Witten is at least intriguing to me because it's completely unknown. Like, I don't know I know what impact he could have at a small private high school. It's been huge and there's tons of news stories about it. I mean, I don't know what that would look like in the NFL, but I'd at least be intrigued by it.
Yeah, I think it would be great for culture. I had talked to him at one point several years ago, and he told me, that that's what he aspired to do. He wanted to be a head coach in the NFL at some point. That could have changed. I don't keep in touch with him, but I know that he had reams and reams of plays that he drew up, and he's an innovative offensive mind, and so. Yeah, I think there would be a Dan Campbell type effect there potentially with him because he's an intense guy. He's a leader in the locker room. He'll get in people's faces and hold them accountable. But again, you'd be coming with no NFL experience. I mean, Dan Campbell bounced around a little bit in the NFL and had some lower rung coaching jobs before he took over as a head coach. And
right.
So I don't know. Larry asked in the comments, our buddy Larry, is Cliff Kingsbury still a possibility? I think he is. I think he is a possibility. I think he's got a relationship with the Joneses. But, if you steal an offensive coordinator, you have to promote them to be the head coach. And, that's the conundrum. If you go get him to be your head coach, who's your defensive guy? And if they do want Belichick, they can't also have Kingsbury, and they, and so I don't know. I think Kingsbury is a possibility.
You don't think if we get Belichick, they're going to shove Josh McDaniels up our ass?
Yeah,
I mean that's Belichick. You know what? You might get I don't know what the guy's holding out for. Tennessee is a dumpster fire, but maybe we get Belichick and Josh McDaniels and Vrabel's your defensive coordinator, and let's go, man. Let's get the band from another era that had Tom Brady as their quarterback back together.
Man, after the game, I thought this was interesting. CeeDee Lamb is caught on camera in the middle of the field. Guys are, hugging the opponents and stuff and, saying good game or whatever they're doing. And he is going, I need help. I need help.
I didn't see that. And
so if CeeDee Lamb is saying that, I just want to analyze that. Typically, typically the team is in two silos, the offensive side and the defensive side. They have their own coaches. They have their own personnel. So I would think he would be talking about the offense. I don't think he would be talking about the offensive line. He might be saying, hey, I need a badass running back, but that's a game in which your running back just had 131 yards, so I don't think he's saying that. I think he's talking about the wide receiver room, probably. And I understand that. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Wasn't he targeted twice in the second half?
He was wide open on the last play of the game, too. And
I think they only threw it to him twice.
If he's saying, I need help, I need a new quarterback, well, your quarterback's hurt. You have a $60 million quarterback. So I don't think he's talking about that. I don't think he's talking about the offensive line. I think is he talking about the receiver room? I mean,
I like the people over here that was saying because his shoulders hurt, he needed help getting his jersey off so he could swap it with Jamar Chase. Man, that is, by the way, I think he projects himself as an immature guy, which is not uncommon for young rich guys. But man, I respect the crap out of him playing with that hurt shoulder on a team that's got a 1% chance of making the playoffs. That's
a
lot of guys would be, and also knowing that they're not in a situation where they're going to be able to utilize him because they have the injuries they have. So that from my perspective, that's very, very impressive. I like the way his character is.
You're right. And so I am probably reading that the wrong way. It is probably what everybody is saying here in the comments, that he is saying, hey, I need help getting this jersey off so I can trade jerseys with Jamar Chase. That's probably exactly what it was.
But also I'd like to say he does act immature. But
right.
Again, like, I always think it's unfair, especially in football more than any other sport, to have a guy go spend, 3 hours getting his ass kicked, just constant just a brawl and your adrenaline's full tilt and you just had a devastating loss, and stick a microphone in that guy's face and ask him to, be a wise, mature person. Like, come on, man, what are we doing?
So yeah. Okay. So this is why it's great to do this live and get your comments. We need you guys over here commenting so you guys can help us with the show. That's really, really badass. And again, I hope you've been out there sharing the link. That really helps us as well. So as we continue to have this Cowboys conversation, I do love Micah Parsons' reaction. It kind of ties back into what you're saying about CD. CD could quit if he wanted to. Micah Parsons devastated. He was holding on to their 2% chance of making the postseason. He really wanted to win out. And that's cool. That's culture. So, I really think McCarthy's good at that. I don't see guys quitting on him, and he's just not good at play calling. And I don't see a way around that. I don't see a way where you could say, hey, look, we want you to stay, keep doing this culture, but we're going to go get some badass play caller. And the other thing is, you can't steal an offensive coordinator who's some hotshot unless you promote him to head coach. So you'd have to go get some young hotshot that's like in the underwings of whatever that is, like the backup, the wide receivers coach in Detroit or something like that, right? I don't know. They're in a tough spot.
Well, the other thing too is I get the sense that McCarthy thinks he's been doing it right. They had 3 straight 12-win seasons. He takes credit for winning that Super Bowl, which, whatever you're the head coach, do that. And then they can totally blame this season on injuries if they want. Now, I think we all realize that there was more to it than that, but I don't know that. I think they have legitimate excuses. Now, there's certain things they don't have legitimate excuses for, but I don't think any of us expected the offensive line to be the disaster that it was this year. And they did really have injuries on a defense that wasn't going to be great. They had injuries early on to their 3 best defensive players.
4, yeah.
Yeah, didn't Diggs miss? I forgot who.
You got Sam Williams, Micah, Tank, and Nealand all got hurt.
Yeah. And Bland too. Bland didn't start until 2 games ago or 1 game ago. This is the second game back. So they had legitimate injuries, but dude, teams play through injuries. I think that McCarthy probably doesn't feel like he's the reason any of this has happened.
I don't think he is. Okay, hold on. He is with regard to his bad play calling on the offense. But that is a factor in this, but they took the offseason off. They didn't do anything. They thought Zeke would be a great running back. I mean, that is your front office ruining your season. They took the offseason off. The young guys didn't hit. Guyton was not ready to come in and be that. Mozzie is a miss. Schoonmaker is just a guy. You missed on some young guys that you needed them to take the next step. Zach regressed or tried to play hurt. I love him, but he had a tough year. And so...
Did you see the revisionist history, or maybe I'm wrong? I thought Mike McCarthy rolled out some revisionist history a couple days ago when he was like, yeah, Udoka was going to start all along, but he got hurt in preseason.
What?
I was like, that wasn't the talk when you guys used that high pick on Guyton. I don't remember that talk, but yeah, 2 days ago, McCarthy was like, yeah, dude, Udoka was going to be our starter all along. And I was like, couldn't you have played him a few weeks back? And you didn't? I don't know, man. That struck me as, and this is what KT warned us about. We've been doing a show with KT for 10 years, and he's been killing McCarthy as long as we've known him.
Yeah.
That's why, I wasn't watching Green Bay Packer games closely, but I was getting reports from KT about what it was like, and I was like, ooh, I don't want any of that. And everything he said about him is pretty much played out that way here. But yeah, the idea that he never takes blame for anything. And again, like, when you have a season like this, it's not one thing. It's multiple things. It's the ineptitude of the front office and their team construction. It's the way they handled the salary cap. It's McCarthy's approach to offense. It's injuries on the defensive side of the ball. It's having a long holdout so CD and Dak weren't on the same page. Then the offensive line has all those injuries, and you add all that up, and you're sitting here with 5 wins. What are they now? 5-8? Is that their record? 5 wins, 13 games into the season. It's not just one thing. It's a lot of things. And that's why culture matters. Culture can help you overcome several things a lot of times. A lot of times it can't. It's just too much. It's an avalanche. And that's why you see, unless they're horrible franchises, there's a lot of horrible franchises that consistently suck. But that's why you look at the Bengals. The Bengals barely beat the Cowboys, and they had aspirations of getting back to the AFC Championship game this year, getting in the mix with the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, I watched Joe Burrow. That guy is effing unbelievable. And if you told me this 5-win Bengals team was going to be a 12-win team next year, I'd be like, all right, I can see it. That's just the nature of the NFL. You can make wild jumps from one year to the next because there is so much in the middle. And even at the very top, like two best teams in the AFC, the Bills and the Chiefs, watch those games and tell me you're blown away by those teams. You're just not.
Yeah.
It's a crazy league, man. It's really wild.
There is one thing there's one thing for certain. Man, Cooper Rush is not great. And man, it was he is just not very good. And honestly, that's a little bit comforting. To me, if you could just win out with Cooper Rush, then it's like, why did we have a $60 million quarterback? If this guy can just win games, and so to me, that is a little comforting. That even this thing looks so much better with Dak Prescott, which makes me feel better about that money. But I do worry at this point with Dak and all the injuries he's had now, and they're starting to stack up and add up, and he's getting older. I mean, he's going to have to hold off the injury bug. Is that going to keep him from running more moving forward? But I mean, you do have the ability to have a bounce back. You do have that ability. To your point, the NFL is a parody party. And anything can happen, and they've been good for the last few years. They absolutely fell off a cliff. But if you can rectify some of those things, don't take the offseason off, fortify your offensive line, get another running back, get a receiver, have some weapons, get Dak healthy, and you do need to invest in the defense, as KT was pointing out on our show, weekdays 3 to 6 on 97.1 The Eagle. The Bengals and the Cowboys spend the least amount of money on defense in the NFL, and their defenses are right back at the end of the league for that reason. Two of the worst defenses, two of the smallest budgets to pay for those defenses. So I don't know. Maybe there's a fitting correlation there, but I do think that they could bounce back and rebound and be okay next year. They need to hit on their draft picks, and they need to have a good offseason and add some free agents, but it's possible.
Yeah, and then that last part you just said is the tough part because they never add free agents. They add a couple, occasionally a Malik Hooker or somebody like that, but they're not going to add free agents. They do need to significantly upgrade their defensive depth. That killed them. They had a lot of defections through free agency, and they didn't replenish. And then when they had injuries, they had nobody to replace those guys. They were razor thin at all of those positions. I feel like they have a pretty damn good secondary. But obviously now with the injury to Overshown, they need to reload on defense. Even if McCarthy's back, there's no way Zimmer's back. I would be shocked by that, but I have no confidence that McCarthy knows who to go get. Like, look at his choices as defensive coordinators. Dan Quinn was great, but I'm not so sure Dan Quinn was hit. I think there were other forces involved in getting Dan Quinn in here. And if I'm completely wrong, fine, I get it. But his first choice was terrible. And then bringing in Zimmer, that has been very uninspired, though Zimmer hadn't had the horses to work with. In a league with innovation, they are consistently staying old.
Dinosauring.
They're dinosauring so hard, which is why there's no way it's not going to be Belichick.
It's got to be Belichick.
The greatest dinosaur of all time, Godzilla, is right there. Just like, hey, I'm here, man. How old do you guys want to get?
When I heard Belichick interviewed for like Tarleton State job or whatever he interviewed for last week or whatever,
Carolina,
I'm like, maybe he'd be your defensive coordinator. You could have a dinosaur in defense, and that would be super awkward. And maybe you bring back McCarthy. That might be interesting. I don't know. Anyways, Cowboys lost, and I guess the final last thing. People want to see Trey Lance. I get it. If you're watching the game, you want to have fun. You'd like to see an electric player in the game. He one of the top picks in an NFL draft. Surely he's got to be better than Cooper Rush. I personally don't want it and don't see the value in it because I don't want to win games. And I think he's probably better than Cooper Rush. And if you want to keep him, playing him doesn't help you keep him. If he goes and plays well, he's going to play himself into more money somewhere else. And he's kind of trapped right now. So I don't care about my eyeballs would like to watch Trey Lance. It'd be more fun watching Cowboy games, but I don't think it helps them in the big picture to play him personally.
Boy, that's a huge game coming up against Carolina for the draft position stuff. Is Carolina at 4 wins or 3?
Bro, Carolina is favored against the Cowboys for the first time they've been favored in years.
Wow, man. Yeah, so that I can't remember if they're at 4 wins or 3, but if they beat the Cowboys, then they'll have the tiebreaker with them when it comes. Now, there's going to be, if you look, man, there's so many teams at the bottom, so many teams that are farting around with 5 or fewer wins. It's
They're
just
doing it right.
It's just a glut. So that's going to change six more times every week. That'll change several positions. There's just too many teams stuck together that are bad, and it's also like I don't follow the draft, but people that do like, it's kind of a, it's not star heavy at the top. So they're going to have to hit on every one of their picks, man. They have to have about a 70% hit rate this draft because they haven't had a high hit rate in a couple years. They've had a couple good picks and one of them had a devastating injury last night. So that really sucks, man.
They need to lose out. They're the 12th pick right now. It'd be great if they could get to like 5th or 6th. That would be incredible. Probably fucked their chances of having an awesome pick with wins over the Commanders and Giants. Hopefully they don't win any more games. That's why I want Cooper Rush. Okay, people have been asking about Jimmy Butler. We're going to switch gears. I want to talk a little Mavs. Mavs have a huge game tonight. I just want to ask this for everyone watching this right now. I want you to leave in the comments right now. Do you want, before we discuss it, do you want the Mavericks to trade for Jimmy Butler? Shams said the Mavs are one of 3 teams that he's listed or whatever. And of course, he wants to go to a win now team. But before we even talk about whether we want him or what it would entail to get him or any of these rumors, do you want the Mavs to trade for Jimmy Butler? Yes or no? Leave it over in the comments. I can't wait to see. Okay, there's the first one. 100% don't want Jimmy Butler. Here's one. What will it cost? Okay, so Skin Wade. He's 35. He'll be 36 in next September.
Okay. He's got 2 years. He's got this year and next year left on his deal. So you'll have him next year at 36.
He's making $48 million, I believe, this year.
Mm-hmm.
He is not, he shoots, he's not really a 3-point shooter. He's okay at shooting threes, shoot 36%, something like that. That's not kind of what he's known for. He's a ball dominant guy, stop the ball down and beat your ass one-on-one. He is a beast. That's why he's Jimmy Butler. Look, he's great. But at this point, at this age, at that amount of money, breaking up what this team already has, do you want Jimmy Butler on the Dallas Mavericks?
I mean, I don't want him at that money because I don't want to trade Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Quentin Grimes, and Maxi Kleba and a first-round pick for him. I don't want to trade 2 starters, one of my top 2 bench players, and a first-round pick to get that. I don't understand how that makes sense. The Mavericks may think differently. Kyrie and Luka might be in Nico's ear right now going, oh, my God, if we get Jimmy Butler, we're over the top. But unless you pull in another team, you're giving up, to make the math work, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Maxi Kleba, and Quentin Grimes to get him. Now, I got to go in there and do all the other math. It could be that it's not Quentin Grimes, it's Daniel Gafford instead. There's levels of the salary cap where you're talking about these tax levels and these aprons. And so they're very close to being hard capped. So I think they have to give up more than, and I don't even know what Miami's situation is, but the idea of do you want him doesn't matter. The idea is what does it take to get him? I think Christian put that in the comments. Christian's right. So if that's what people want. And they're like, yeah, I'd love to give up 2 starters and 2 bench players to get another ball dominant player. But again, to me, it comes down to what do Kyrie and Luka want? If Kyrie and Luka and J Kidd were like, yes, that will make us unbeatable. My first instinct is that then go ahead and take this year off the table. I think you're too far into this year to change the chemistry of your team that much in terms of that style of ball. I think it would take them, it would be similar to Phoenix. You know, Phoenix was a washout last year, but when they're healthy, those 3 guys have been really good together this year. Well, then they got hurt, and then you saw them lose a bunch. I personally prefer this version of the Mavericks to what that version would be, but that's an unknown, right? That's the future. It could be that you put those 3 together and it's just absolutely magical. I don't see that. But I would acquiesce to what Kyrie and Luka want in that scenario. I don't know. What do you think?
That is a cool wild card component. And we've seen this in sports over our years of covering it. And you've pointed this out many, many times. The way players feel about other players is often wildly different than the way fans do or front offices do. And they're not looking at payrolls. They're not looking at salary caps. They're just thinking, man, can that guy ball or not?
Right.
And you're right that if that's happening, you're not saying it is, but if that was where the stars and leaders of this team were like saying, hell yes, go get that guy. You know, how much influence would that have over Nico? If Nico didn't agree with it, but those guys really, really wanted it, I don't know. I do.
Let me throw this out there too. How much has Jimmy Butler moved around and why?
Right.
I mean, right. Dude, he single-handedly, when Thibodeau was in Minnesota, he got kicked out of a practice and wouldn't leave because he was annihilating the psyche of Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns because he didn't think they were tough enough. So that got him traded to Philly. Then he didn't work out in Philly, so that got him traded to Miami. He was great in Miami, and they overachieved. And he made had huge games, and then he took a 3-point shot in the Eastern Conference Finals where everyone went, wait, what? He is a baller. He is an absolute baller, but he is a very unique entity. And I don't know that you can justify, in my opinion, disrupting what you have right now to go sample what that might end up being like. It seems to me to be a very risky proposition.
I'm curious about, okay, first of all, they can turn around and trade Clay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
It's after December the 15th. So I could be wrong. Or it's December 10th. So I think they could trade him in 5 days. I'd have to go and look at that, but I believe that's accurate.
Would that be messed up? Is that just the cold-blooded nature of sports? You convince this guy to come here and you trade him halfway through his first year here.
I think it's doing him wrong. Yes.
I think it's doing him wrong. And I also think it sends a message to other superstars that you would hope to bring in that, hey, man, if we come get you, we might deal you months later. I don't know. I don't know if that factors into this, but it's one of the first things I thought of. And I did. So I saw our guy Slightly Biased put a trade together that works money-wise. And I'm assuming you would have to include picks. But I just want to ask you about this specific trade since he made the money work. Okay. Jimmy Butler for Klay Thompson, Daniel Gafford, Maxi Kleba, and Quentin Grimes. And
that money doesn't work.
Okay, that's what he has working here.
Hold on. Do you have a calculator with you? Well, hold on. Give me those numbers again. You said Klay Thompson is 16.
There it is right there.
Daniel Gafford is 14, so that's 30. Maxi's 41. Quentin Grimes is 45. Okay, I believe I believe that Jimmy Butler's making 48. I don't think the Mavericks can take any salary back with where they are on the apron. I don't think they can be over, but dude, I could be wrong on that. But okay, let's just take that at face value and take PJ out of it. You want to give up Daniel Gafford, Klay, Quentin?
I don't. I love what the Mavericks have with the two-headed monster at center. It enables you to deal with an injury to one of them or foul trouble to one of them and still have a kick-ass center, which seems to be massively important to Luka, rim runners that he can just throw alley-oops to. I love Quentin Grimes. I like his upside. Maxey at this point is Maxey. I love him as a guy, but he's just, he's not really doesn't have a huge impact here. But Clay, I still like what Clay brings to the party in terms of spacing. I still like that plan, and I just don't think it's time to give up on that. I'm not giving up on him, and am I worried about him? Sure, but he has a long track record of fucking draining threes, and I think he'll be fine. I wouldn't do it just because the age. I don't think that's if there was like some way to go all in and trade all this shit for some guy who is still in his prime. Okay, you could maybe sell me on that. He's the perfect fit, phenomenal wing defender, and he can shoot threes and handle the rock. I don't even know who that would be, but some elite badass. Okay, but not 35-year-old Jimmy Butler. I don't think so.
No, I'm and even before just going in and looking at the players, when all this stuff came up a week ago, I was like, well, I don't understand the fit. It's just it's a seismic thing when you're talking about just throwing stars together. They usually need time to gel, and I feel like I understand thinking that it's unlikely the Mavericks get back to the finals because the West is so tough, and they did have such a long grind last year. But man, I love the makeup of the team. I love their ability to get better as the season goes on. It's obviously, the additions they made were perfect. Najee and Quentin have been great. Now, I think, too, with role players, you have to see it unfold over the course of a year, because I think when you see them in short doses, you can get intoxicated off that. But there's a reason they're bench players, right? Like, are they going to do what they're doing all the time? Najee's been incredible during this stretch. So I want to see this team fully healthy over the course of 6 weeks. The trade deadline is in February. I didn't even look at Houston's team. I can't imagine why Houston would want to do that. I feel like that would be a step back for them, but hey, maybe not. Jimmy Butler's a nail chewer, and that's certainly the culture of that team and what Udoka's put together. And then Golden State, I don't know that he's a great fit there, but maybe, man. Maybe they want to make one last run with Draymond, Steph, and Jimmy Butler. They have taken a little bit of a tumble the last few weeks. So I think of those three teams, Golden State seems the most likely to be willing to do something like that. But the last guy they were going after was Lauri Markkanen, who's like, what, a decade younger? I don't know, man. I think the Jimmy Butler situation is probably not going to work out to Jimmy Butler's favor.
Right. Okay. The Mavericks do have a huge game tonight. This is a massive game for the Emirates Cup. Mavericks playing Oklahoma City. This is in Oklahoma City, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to be watching it at Cosm.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah. Very excited about this. If you're watching this now and you come out to Cosm, come say hello. If you're there, let me know. Holler at me in the DMs if you want a Ben and Skin YouTube shirt. If you're going to be there, I'll try to bring one. If not, try to catch us sometime at Rollertown, and I'll have one for you there. This matchup is fascinating. I think my least favorite player in the world is Devin Booker, and my second least favorite is Lou Dort. If Lou Dort was on my team, I'd love it, but I don't know how that'd work in this current incarnation and rotation. But I do like what he brings to the table. He's the most physical perimeter defender I've seen in a long time. For me personally, they allow him to be a football player and just bully people. And you see the way we've talked about this a lot. A lot of times in a basketball game, you got to see the way the game is being officiated and then play based on that. And then if you have the ability to play a bunch of different ways, that's good for you. See how it's being called. He, I think, has conditioned referees to just allow him to be a human wrecking ball, because he gets away with more physicality than anybody I can think of. And he beats up Luka, and it can be an effective way. I'm sure Luka is averaging a triple-double against him, but it seems an effective way if you're going to try to stop Luka, if you could just bully him and the refs won't stop you. So, Man, dude, just the other night, he landed under the foot of. Did you see that play?
Yeah, of Ingram.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
Ingram. And people are like, "What are you talking about, man? He got elbowed in the face." I don't know about that, but that's the type of player he is to me, who would gladly just stick his foot under where you're trying to land. He's just going to give it everything he's got, supremely physical, and he's going to bully ball your ass when he plays you. And so that part I don't like. I don't like Lou Dort.
No, he's a frustrating player when he's not on your team. He very much plays. I thought the longest time that the reason that Draymond Green became Draymond Green is that he established a style very early on, and the refs just got used to it, because what the refs aren't going to do is they're not going to just foul guys out all the time, especially good players. And so if you go back to the very beginning of the Golden State dynasty, one of the incredible moments in it was the Memphis Grizzlies, Golden State Warriors. I think that was a second round series where they basically let Draymond Green just completely assault Marc Gasol on every single play. So he gave up 6 inches to Marc Gasol and was just brutalizing him, and the refs let him do it. And that's a physical playoff series. And if you go back and look at that series, Mike Conley was going off and then turned an ankle. And in that, the complexion of that series changed, and the legend of Golden State was born. I think Grizzlies were headed to win that series. But at that time, Draymond was not what he is now in terms of reputation. He was building his reputation by assaulting people, and that's the way he's always played, and he gets away with it. And Lou Dort has done the same thing. He had that was a series. I think that was the Thunder against the Rockets, and Lou Dort actually hit a huge shot in that series. But he established early on, this is the way I play, and they let him get away with stuff they don't let other guys get away with. And he's built that reputation, and that's how he plays. And if you're not, if your player is being defended by him, you are very frustrated as a fan. It sucks.
Yeah. So in terms of tonight, do you know, are all of our guys back?
Najee and so Hardy's out, Maxi's out, Exum's going to be out for another month, and then PJ and Najee are questionable. So hopefully those guys, they've got the sick. Najee's been sick for like 2 weeks. He has that same sick you got from KT.
I know. Never should have slept with him.
Yeah. So hopefully, I guess he slept with a woman that wasn't clean. But hopefully PJ and Najee play, because this is going to be very different than the game we won, because they got Hartenstein back, and that guy is giving you about 13 rebounds a night. So if you remember that time we beat them a few weeks ago without Luka, we had a 24, 25 rebound advantage. It was outrageous. We had all those points in the paint. That ain't going to be the case tonight. It's going to be way different. This will be a really tough game. We need full complement of guys that we have access to win it.
Yeah. So, and if they do win this, so I'm going to Vegas on Friday.
Nice.
When will they play their next game in the Emirates Cup?
I think it's Saturday.
Saturday in Vegas?
I believe so.
Woo. Woo.
Look at that newsletter news. By the way, we should tell everyone this is our last week of Soakers for 2024. We'll do another one Thursday, and then we're going to put it on the skids for the holiday season and be back in January. But make plans too. We have something very special happening at the brewery December the 20th. That's a Friday night. You're going to want to join me and Ben. There's music, bingo, and some other really cool stuff happening. So if you want to squeeze in another Ben and Skin hang before Christmas time, December 20th is your target date. That's a Friday night. That's going to be fun. You'll have been back from Vegas by then, and probably be wearing a Santa hat, right?
Yeah.
Don't you wear Santa hats this time of year?
Yeah, very, very nice. Maybe I will come as Santa. You need to come as Bad Santa.
Done.
Bad Santa. That'd be great.
In.
Cigarette hanging. But yeah, this if you guys dig what we're doing here on the Super Soaker, we certainly love making it. We hope y'all are enjoying it. We just need to grow it. And so we constantly run into people who are like, man, I lost track of you guys after the fan, or what'd you guys do? Or there's, people that listen to The Freak that haven't listened in a while. And we still do the radio show 3 to 6 on 97.1 The Eagle every day with KT and Christina. And if you want to hear those podcasts, they're on the iHeart app, which is a free app, and you can go listen to everything without music. Just listen to the podcast there. That works. But, man, we're super proud of what we're building here with our YouTube channel as well with Iron Balls Productions. But we just got to get out there and grow. And the social media makes it really tough to do that. If you see a post from us, hit the like button. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel or you're watching this on Twitter, click through and go to the YouTube channel and actually subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the like button. All that interaction helps with the evil algorithm more than you could possibly know, which is why we created this newsletter. And we're not going to spam you. All you got to do is go to benandskin.com, enter your email address. It takes literally like 3 seconds, and then we'll be able to send you emails directly to your inbox. And Skin, we don't spam. What do we send? Like one a week?
Yeah. And there's even been some weeks that we haven't sent them. So, and it's usually, stuff that if you're into the show and into what we do, you'd probably want to know. It's stuff about things we have coming up, live remotes, stuff we're doing with the Soaker, special guests. Also, Poor Spacing, our Mavs basketball podcast, is off this week. They're doing some cool things in the studio, but we'll be back next week. So all the stuff that we're doing, whether it's the Soaker, whether it's 97.1 The Eagle, whether it's events at Roller Town or Poor Spacing, we'll just send you the details on that, stuff that we have going on with giveaways. And, it may end up in your junk folder too. So occasionally, how often do you look in your junk folder, dude?
I don't look very often.
Do it. Every time I go, I'll think, I'll go weeks without looking. And then I got it set up to like auto clear out. And every time I go and look in the junk folder, there's one email that slips through that I was like, I probably would have wanted to get that.
Man, I think I've used the same email address for too long.
Right.
Because I have a hard time getting my whole thing is junk.
Yeah.
Like it's just junk on junk on junk on junk. But anyways, we would love for you to sign up for our newsletter so we can send emails directly to you. You may have noticed that we've got Ben and Skin YouTube channel merch out. We got stickers, we got shirts, and we're just giving them out, man. We want y'all to wear those shirts, post them on social media. All that helps more than you could possibly know. All right, anything else we need to say here?
No, man, make sure to listen this afternoon. We are going to be at the Pluckers in Plano on Friday. That's going to be just a me and KT show because you're going to be in Vegas and K-Ray will be celebrating her birthday weekend. So it'll just be me and KT, but you know how that goes. We'll just everybody come through and let's all kick KT in the nuts. And then, this is the last week of the Soaker. So no matter what you do, don't miss Thursday. It'll be the last 25.
This has been another Iron Balls production.